Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today I want to dive into an updated tier list now that we've had our, hands on Blastoise. We've gotten to play him a little bit. We haven't seen any tournaments or anything like that, but I do think that I've got a pretty decent understanding. And I know this might be a little weird, but the way that I do my tier list is kind of like a mix between solo queue and a mix between competitive. I know that may not be great because I do think that a solo queue tier list is like, ultimately it's very different. But this should still give you some really good information. It's more so like I'm doing a more literal tier list, and then there's like solo queue elements in there, and I'll try to make those like call outs, or I'll try to like let you know if and when I'm making a decision based on solo queue. So I have my tier list here. I actually zoomed it in. I don't know why I haven't done this in the past. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So Alolan, Ninetales, we didn't see a lot of balance changes. So a lot of my tier list is probably not going to change up too much, but I haven't really looked at where I put a lot of things since the last one, because the last one I did was the solo queue tier list, so there might be some little changes, but ultimately Alolan, Ninetales still, in my opinion, a really like solid A tier attacker. They fit in lane. The laning phase is great. Really, really phenomenal pick. All right, let's get into Talonflame. Talonflame, again, I may be completely changing things up. Talonflame, I want to put him in B tier because I think that you can get some good value out of it. But honestly, I tend to do this thing where I want to start spreading some things out a little bit to give things a bit more of an identity. And really, the Speedster role in general is just like really kind of suffering right now. I don't think that Talonflame is super great. Unfortunately, the character has some good potential, but it may be just very niche, and even then there's just always something better you can run, because Talonflame can't lane super well and the jungle is very, very highly contested. Slowbro, I want to put Slowbro in C tier as well. Now here's the thing with Slowbro. Slowbro's a good tank. If anything, could encroach the B tier a little bit. Has a really strong Unite move, brings a lot of CC to the table, but the current tank meta is definitely not in favor of Slowbro, and is, not in favor of Slowbro. So, I don't know, we're going to get to that. I'm changing my opinion of Mime here a little bit. My opinion of Mime is that he's always been good, and I think that he's sleeper good and maybe even niche. But the more that I play Mime, the more that I feel like, you know what, you could just main this character, especially in solo queue. This is one of those solo queue moments. You could just main this character and you'd be good. Like, you would be bringing damage, you'll be bringing support, strong laning phase, an amazing ultimate. Mime is good. Mime is very, very good. I love playing Mime. It's probably my favorite support to play lately, in terms of like fun, and Mime brings a lot to the table. So not someone you're going to see in like team comps probably for tournaments or anything. You'll probably still see a lot more of the supporty supports, but solo queue wise and just in-game effective use, I think Mime is really, really solid. As for Lucario, so Lucario, no changes here, nothing completely different. You have extreme speed, which can do crazy damage in a team fight if you don't feel that it's necessary to have the execute power of Powered Up Punch, but Powered Up Punch really brings a lot to the table. Insane scaling damage wise, insane mobility, has a health shield. You throw a score health shield, or I guess it's a health shield, on the passive, so whenever they get low, below 50%, very good survivability, and then you throw a score shield on this and you're just the ultimate lane bully. The other thing about Lucario that doesn't get talked about a whole lot because it's not super prevalent in the meta is that hypothetically, and we did this on the Pokemon Unite talk show recently, hypothetically, if you were to draft Lucario, like in a draft system, which we don't have, but if that was a thing, he could be a flex pick between jungle and lane. So that's kind of a little hidden OP, I guess, Greninja, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm putting him right back up to the top of the S tier. The best jungler in the game right now, kind of edges out or Cinderace, I think, a little bit, but just really, really solid. I think, really, really solid pick. You can't go wrong. You've got the execute from Surf. You have really good burst damage, that melee boosted attack, range damage. It's just a very, very strong pick. Gengar, unfortunately, going to find its way in the C tier. Kind of the same thing. It's just not a super strong pick. Really, really hard to get a lot of value out of this character. And, if you can get ahead on Gengar, and Talonflame for that matter, if you can get ahead on Speedsters, they're just really good. They're really, really good. They can do a lot of damage, but when you don't get ahead, you feel entirely useless, like you're not in the game at all. I personally like the Shadow Ball Dream Eater build better than the Sludge Bomb Hex build, but the Sludge Bomb Hex build has more damage potential, but is really, really bad when you're behind on that build. Art of War, one of my favorite attackers in the game, so incredibly fun to play. I think that this character is great. I'm going to put her in the B tier. She is just really, really hard to get farm in lane. So if you're putting her in the jungle, then you're taking jungle farm away from Greninja, so that's crazy. And while I do think that she's great if you want to build a team comp around her, in terms of like solo queuing her or in terms of even playing her in teams, it just isn't the best option. She's solid though. If they ever buff her laning phase, could be an amazing pick. If they ever do change, like when she gets her ultimate or when characters find their power spikes, could be an amazing pick. Garchomp, like a lot of all-rounders, is really good. Really, really good, but struggles to have a home. It doesn't really lane well. Don't really want to take a farm away from the jungle to play Garchomp. I mean, I guess you could maybe make a team comp around Garchomp, but a lot of the time, the value that you're going to get out of this character just isn't as high as you would get from someone else. But a B tier pick is a solid pick, and it's definitely something that you could take. It's not going to be a problem. You can still win games in solo queue with this. You could still win games in 5-man queue with this, but it's not the most optimal. It's definitely not the best pick in the world. Eldergoss. Where do I want to put you? I almost still just want to put her at A tier. I think that she does get kind of pushed out, a little bit of A tier. So I think I'm going to put her as the B tier support. And we'll talk about, who would be above her in a little bit. But Eldergoss is still insanely effective. Has a decent laning phase, brings shield, has either Pollen Puff or Leaf Tornado, and has a really great ultimate. A really solid pick. You can't really go wrong. I don't think that she's considered the most optimal, which is why I don't want to put her in A tier. But she's very, very good. Incredibly good, in fact. I dare say that she's better than probably everyone else in this tier. So she may just be like bottom of A tier, and maybe that's what I would much rather put her as, to be completely honest. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to throw her in A tier, but you have to know it's like a hypothetical like bottom of A tier, since I don't really have it like much more well defined than that. Crustal is really good. Crustal is actually really good. A B tier tank for sure. I think that this character is not really a tank, although you could play him tanky if you really want to, but you can also do like stealth rock and scoring goals kind of Crustal, split pushing kind of Crustal build. I think that you can get a lot of value out of this character in solo queue. I think that you can get some decent value with this character in 5-mans for sure, undeniably. It's just he has a lot of versatility to him, and that actually is really, really good. You can be present in team fights and get some work done, and then you can also go and do your Crustal thing. So that's definitely for sure. Kramer, in terms of team play, definitely a solid pick here. No lie, for sure. Definitely contest for that, like the top mage Pokemon or mage attacker between Ninetales and Kramer is really, really solid. Although I think that we're going to start to see a little bit of a meta shift. So we'll have to talk about that here in just a little bit, and I'll bring it up. But Kramer, really, really solid. I think as far as solo queue goes, I would much rather have Ninetales. It feels really, really hard to coordinate with Kramer, and Kramer is really positioning dependent. And, if you don't have Kramer with a team, he could get caught out, and then you're just like hoping for a really high value Kramer ultimate. Whereas I feel like Ninetales brings a lot more value across the full kit and has a really good ultimate as well. So Ninetales probably better in solo queue, Kramer much better in team queue, but also Ninetales is insane. So Cinderace. So Cinderace, a part of me, I think I put Cinderace in A tier, but the thing is Cinderace is not an A tier lane attacker, that's for sure. Cinderace cannot keep up with Cramorant or Ninetales, but Cinderace also can't keep up with Greninja. Still, I don't know, arguably in the top 3 junglers for sure, I think. I'm not sure if Cinderace edges out some of the other junglers that I'll be talking about, or even like if Lucario jungle ever became really, really meta where you wanted to run like a couple attackers in lane or something. It's not the point. That's not where we're at. But Cinderace, I'm kind of keeping Cinderace like where they fall a little bit short. I didn't mean to do that. Where they fall a little bit short of the current meta in terms of Greninja in the jungle. As for Absol, Nothing's changed. I'm going ahead and put Absol under Gengar in the D tier. The character, you know, I've actually run into a couple of really good Absols recently, and when you can get this character online, you can almost entirely win the game. The problem, like, and I mean early, I'm talking in the first 2 minutes, you got to be hard ganking and you have to be successful. Otherwise, even then, the character just can make it to endgame and struggle to do anything. So Absol, you know what? I actually kind of fear this character because there will eventually be a meta where Absol is dominant. Maybe. I'm anticipating that, and that's going to be terrifying. As for Charizard, you know, another all-rounder, really, really solid pick. Kind of sits perfectly in the middle of B tier. I think the character's great. It's kind of anti-meta with its ultimate. The ultimate Unite move is very, very fast charging, has, you know, some good utility in its kit. I like Fire Blast. Flare Blitz is good for chasing and 1v1ing. Fire Punch is just a staple across the board. Charizard's really, really great, but just struggles to keep up. Can't really lane with it. Same thing. If these characters could lane better, you would probably see a bit more use out of them, at least in like A tier, because then you could kind of like contest that Lucario pick. But Lucario would still be better. But yeah, unfortunate for them. So Pikachu is going to kind of sit. You know, I think that Pikachu is better than Absol. I do. But I feel like I don't know. Pikachu's probably a comfortable C tier. I don't remember if I've been putting Pikachu in D tier or not. And I probably have, but I've been playing a little bit more Pikachu. Pikachu, it's not like the end of the world for Pikachu. You know what? I'm going to grab my Venusaur. I always forget to do this. I'm grabbing Venusaur today. Pikachu's not like the end of the world kind of a pick, but I don't know. It's just not great. It honestly probably is similar effective use to Gengar, and Pikachu doesn't fall off quite as hard, so I guess I can't complain too much in regards to Pikachu. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Pikachu. As for Venusaur, which I finally replaced the Bulbasaur picture, Venusaur I honestly think is just like nice, comfortable B tier. The attacker is great. It's a little bit more niche. I think that honestly, in my opinion, I would probably personally, this has nothing to do, like in solo queue, the attacker is very, very great. The attacker is probably better in solo queue than Ninetales or Kramer, but in team play, it just falls into like a very niche pick, but it's very, very solid. B tier minimum for Venusaur. Because there's just so many plays and so much damage that you can do with Venusaur. Brings a decent Unite move, but ultimately just has Solar Beam and Sludge Bomb, which is kind of like the main build that is very, very strong. Zera Aura, the one speedster that defies the laws of speedsters in this game, is incredibly strong. I always talk about who would take over the jungle if it wasn't for attackers, and it would probably be Zera Aura. This character is, like I said, incredibly strong, very, very good to use. And yeah, brings a lot of value to the team in terms of burst, in terms of clear time, in terms of the ultimate, the Unite move. Very, very strong character. I love Zera Aura so much. I love playing it. Wigglytuff, kind of holding the S tier position still in my mind. I think that this character is incredibly frustrating. I think that this character definitely needs to see some nerfs. Does a lot of damage in the early game. Has Sing at level 4, a crazy Unite move. And although you don't see this character in tournaments because of the Unite move bug that exists for Wigglytuff, this character's crazy. You can run it as a support if you want to. At least in solo queue, people definitely run it as a support. You don't see that too much in team setting. Again, maybe you would if she wasn't banned, but just really, really strong, I think. Incredibly strong, I think. As for Snorlax, I'm definitely still feeling like our boy is an S tier pick as well. The strongest tank, in a sense, and I say it like that on purpose. The strongest tank for sure. Really, really strong. Yeah, what more to say? Snorlax is Snorlax. He's incredible. And you can use block, you can initiate, you can be tanky, you can do all the things that you need to do. Now, I think that this is probably going to be a little bit different than what I've done in the past. If I had to guess, I'm going to go ahead and put Machamp at A tier. And it's the same reason that I have Zera Aura in A tier, and it's the same reason that I have Cinderace in A tier. And I don't know if I touched on it, but Zera Aura lane is actually pretty decent. The difference is with Cinderace lane, not decent at all, and with Machamp lane, not decent at all. So they're better than the people that I have in B tier. Like, Cinderace is better than Gardevoir in a lot of ways, and you know, Machamp is better than these other two all-rounders in a lot of ways. I think in terms of jungle clearing and like potential for ganks and things like that. I think that he kind of barely, I'm talking barely, puts himself in a position over the other all-rounders. And like I said, this might be a little bit different than what I've done in the past. I can't really remember, nor do I think I should refer to every single tier list as my outline, but a very, very strong character. I think that these two characters right here specifically would rule the jungle if there was no attackers in the jungle. And I have to consider that to some degree, because if you don't want to run an attacker in jungle, then you can play one of these two to great effect. And that's yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it. So I said that I wanted to put Eldergoss in the bottom of A, and I think at the top of A, who would almost push her down into B tier, is Blissey. Blissey does a lot of what Eldergoss does, but a lot of the time Blissey just does it better. And I guess I forgot to save my project file, because that puts us to our last buddy here, who is going to be Blastoise, who I guess I don't have a clean PNG image of, so I will grab one really quickly. So, nope, that's the wrong project file. So let me grab a Blastoise really quickly. And I'm going to have to size him down for a bit. I could have swore I saved this project file. All right, so we've got our Blastoise here. We're going to go ahead and kill that glow effect on him and save him in my project. So here's our Blastoise. The man is insane. If I had it formatted, I would put Blastoise at S+ tier probably. I think that this character is undeniably meta-changing, game-changing, maybe even game-breaking. The damage that he does, he has two reliable builds. Even his Surf and Hydro Pump build is good damage. Like, he is consistently out-damaging other characters. He is consistently going to be used in high-level play, I think. I just can't imagine teams not running Blastoise, or at least some teams running Blastoise. I think that Blastoise is probably going to take over one of the laning attacker roles, because I don't think, while I do think that you can lane him very, very well, and I do think that you can jungle Blastoise very, very well, like actually incredibly well, he's probably you know, on par with like Zera Aura and Cinderace jungle, if not better, just because he brings more value to the team. You're still not going to want to take that spot from Greninja, in my opinion. So you have to consider that he will take a laning position, and then you ask yourself, well, what laning position will he take? In my opinion, I'm not going to lie, I think he just is safer, more reliable, and probably a better pick. Maybe not early game, maybe slightly not early game, but more so than Ninetales and Kramer. So you kind of lose a little bit of value in the early game, but you power spike really, really hard with Blastoise. And he's not even bad in the early game. He's actually really, really good. You just don't get some of that free farm and CC in the lane that you get out of these other attackers. And this is just kind of my own opinion about the meta and what I think people might do with this character. So we'll have to see, especially with tournaments coming up this weekend. And yeah, we'll have to see what people are doing with the state of Blastoise. But this is what I'm feeling about the meta as a whole. Probably a lot of things didn't change, a little bit of ups and downs here and there, and that just kind of comes with my own playtime and my own thoughts and feelings. But yeah, I think that, you know, Speedsters as a whole, you can kind of tell they're struggling a little bit, Zera Aura being the one outlier. And honestly, I do think that Discharge needs a slight nerf, but it needs to be tiny. He needs to be able to do that kind of damage, and you need to be able to see a Speedster and be afraid. But he's doing a lot, so who knows? He might be a little overtuned. I don't know, though. Like, is it worth nerfing Zera Aura? Definitely a thought for the comment section down below. And I hope that we see some buffs, whether it be for Speedsters in lane, some buffs for all-rounders in lane, maybe some less viability for attackers in jungle, and, you know, we'll have to see what the state of all of these defenders are, because defenders in this game are pretty solid. They bring something unique to the table, it feels like, for each of them. Crustal's basically a speedster in his own way. Slowbro is like the ultimate CC tank, but really just hasn't quite found a groove for himself, I suppose. And then you got Wiggly, who's a de facto tank support, with Snorlax and Blastoise. Blastoise being like this all-arounder who pushes out, you know, more damage than anyone else in the game. So as always, friends, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thanks for checking out this video. It's always a fun one to make. Be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone that you love them. And I'll see you on the next video.